Somewhere right now, a company with one employee, a P.O. box in the Cayman Islands, and zero products to sell, just moved $4 billion. Legally. No one will report it. No government will stop it. And the people who did it? They're probably at dinner right now. My name is Shadow Capital, and this channel exists for one reason only: to show you what they don't want you to understand. Every city has them. Glass towers, 40 floors, a logo on the side you recognize. And somewhere inside, a legal team, a tax team, a strategy team, all working on the same thing: how to make sure the money goes somewhere else. We're not talking about crime, at least, not technically. What we're talking about today is a structure so common, so embedded in how the global economy works, that most governments just gave up trying to regulate it. It's called a shell company, and by the end of this video, you will never look at a corporate logo the same way again. We're going to cover 5 things today. First, what shell companies actually are, not the textbook definition, the real one. Second, why they're completely, entirely, frustratingly legal. Third, how the ultra-rich stack them, layer them, nest them across 12 jurisdictions before breakfast. Fourth, the leaks, the Panama Papers, the Pandora Papers, the people who exposed it, and what happened to them. And fifth, the part nobody talks about, what this does to you, personally. Let's go! An empty box. No product inside, no employees behind the door, no real office, just a name, a legal identity, a bank account. That's a shell company. Now here's where it gets interesting. That empty box can own things, real things: a yacht, a building in Manhattan, a stake in a tech startup, intellectual property worth hundreds of millions. And because the box owns it, not a person, it becomes almost impossible to trace who is actually behind it. Why does that matter? Because when you can't trace ownership, you can't tax it, you can't sue it, you can't sanction it, you can't freeze it. Are you starting to see why the ultra-rich love these things? Now, I need to stop here and say something important. Shell companies are not automatically illegal. In fact, they're not even automatically suspicious. Legitimate businesses use holding companies all the time. Private equity firms, venture capital funds, multinational corporations, they all use corporate structures that look like shells from the outside. The problem is not the tool. The problem is who uses it, and how, and what they're hiding underneath. Let me give you an example. You want to buy an apartment in London. You're a billionaire. You don't want your name on the deed. So instead of buying it yourself, you set up Company A in the British Virgin Islands. Company A is owned by Company B in Luxembourg. Company B is owned by a trust in the Cayman Islands. The trust's beneficiary? Unknown. Legally protected. Sealed. The apartment now belongs to Company A. Your name appears nowhere. Congratulations. The professionals use layers. Think of it like a Russian nesting doll. The outside doll is what you see, a respectable company name, registered in Delaware, which, by the way, has some of the most secretive corporate laws in the world. More companies are registered in Delaware than there are people living there. Open that doll. Inside is another company. This one registered in Luxembourg. Open that one. Another company, this time in the British Virgin Islands. Open that one. A trust in the Cayman Islands. Open the trust, and you find a foundation in Liechtenstein. Open the foundation. Nothing. A name. A P.O. box. A lawyer who has attorney-client privilege and legally cannot tell you who their client is. 5 layers. 6 jurisdictions. Months of legal work for investigators. Millions in legal fees to unravel. And at the end of all of it, if you're lucky, if you get the documents, if someone leaks something, maybe you find a name. Maybe. The Tax Justice Network estimates that between $21 and $32 trillion is sitting offshore in structures like these. To put that in perspective, the entire GDP of the United States is about $27 trillion. So we're talking about an amount of money roughly equal to the entire American economy, sitting in the shadows. Untaxed, untraceable, untouchable. Let that land for a second. The British Virgin Islands has a population of about 31,000 people. It has more than 400,000 registered companies. 400,000 companies, 31,000 people. That's 13 companies for every single person on those islands. The people who built it were confident, almost arrogant. They believed, correctly for a long time, that no one would ever see inside. Then came April 3rd, 2016. A source, anonymous, identity still unknown to this day, contacted a German newspaper called Süddeutsche Zeitung. They said, "I have documents, a lot of documents." What they had was 11.5 million files from a single law firm in Panama called Mossack Fonseca. This was the Panama Papers. The documents named 214,000 offshore entities, linked to people in more than 200 countries, heads of state, kings, prime ministers, billionaires, celebrities, crime lords, and a lot of people you've never heard of, but probably should know about. The Prime Minister of Iceland resigned within 4 days of publication. The Prime Minister of Pakistan was disqualified from office. 12 national leaders were named directly. And yet, the system kept running. Mossack Fonseca closed, but the structures they built? Still there. The money? Mostly still there. The people? Mostly fine. Then in 2021, it happened again. The Pandora Papers, even bigger. 11.9 million documents from 14 different firms. This time, 35 world leaders, 330 politicians, hundreds of billionaires. And what happened as a result? A few investigations, some resignations, some embarrassment. But the system? Still running. Right now, tonight. This is what power looks like when it's truly protected. This isn't just a story about rich people hiding money. This is a story about where that money isn't going. Every dollar that disappears into a shell company structure is a dollar that doesn't get taxed. And every dollar that doesn't get taxed is a dollar that doesn't fund a school, or a hospital, or a road, or a pension. The IMF estimates that developing countries alone lose around $200 billion per year to offshore tax avoidance. $200 billion every year, from countries that can least afford to lose it. But let's make this even more personal. When Apple routes its profits through Ireland, when Amazon uses Luxembourg, when Google runs its intellectual property through the Netherlands, those companies are not breaking the law. They are using the same architecture we've been talking about tonight. And the result is simple. The tax burden shifts away from them, toward you. Small businesses that can't afford an international tax strategy, middle-class families, workers. You pay more, they pay less. And the gap between the two keeps growing. This is not an accident. This was designed. Shell companies are not an anomaly. They are a feature. This is not a bug in the system that smart regulators will eventually fix. This is the system working exactly as intended, by the people who wrote the rules. And the first step to changing any of that is understanding it. That's what shadow capital is. Every week, we're going to take one piece of the corporate world that operates in the dark, and we're going to drag it into the light. Not with anger, not with conspiracy theories, with documents, with data, with names, with facts. Because the most dangerous thing you can do to power is understand it. If this video opened your eyes, share it. Someone in your life needs to see this. They built this system in the dark. They kept it in the dark for decades, and they were counting on one thing, that you would never find out. Too late.